Hello there and welcome back to Art Doll Tutorials. Today we're going to talk about making armatures. So we're going to focus today on wire armatures. I've just brought this out because there are two basic forms of armatures. You can have wire, which is what we're going to work on today, or you can have this plastic hose type stuff. It's generally sold as doll armature. They have their own individual strengths and weaknesses. So for the doll armature, this is quite strong. It bends very well without breaking, but it is bulky and it's also fairly expensive. So we're just gonna put that aside because I'm not actually gonna work with it today. I just wanted to cover it in brief. Wire, it's cheaper, easier to get hold of, and it's a lot easier to use for small items. But you do have to kind of handle it a lot more gently because you can get strain fatigue in the metal, and then it'll break. So just be very, very careful with it. Okay, so this is the wire we're going to use. This is what I generally use. It's a quite thick aluminium wire, so it's very strong, but it's also light. It's corrosion resistant, and it bends very nicely. Got some here in the packaging, so you can see what it is. Because I've had some people ask me what if it's any particular brand or anything. It's just Oasis floral wire. I actually get it from a local craft shop. But I believe if you look up Oasis floral products online, you should be able to find it. It looks like they're pretty much worldwide, so you shouldn't have too much trouble with that. So I'm going to build up an armature for this little guy here. Now, when I'm building a doll, what I always start with is a drawing, as you can see here. It doesn't necessarily have to be a great drawing. Mine generally aren't. This is actually I actually put a little bit more effort than I normally do into this, just for the camera. As you can see, I didn't quite finish off the tail because I ran out of space, because I always do that. So don't worry. The point isn't to make a perfect drawing. The point is to get your size and proportions of whatever creature you're making. Have it down on paper so you've got a guide and a reference, so it doesn't go all over the place. So we're going to build this little guy up, but it's simple quadruped. So it has a spine and 4 legs. We're not going to do any extra appendages or anything like that. So keep it simple, because this is the sort of body shape that I will generally always be doing anyway. So when I'm doing an armature, it generally comes in 3 parts. First of all, neck and front legs, and then there's a part which is the spine of the back legs, and the part for the tail. So we're going to start out with that. We're going to start out with this. So I'm going to start out with the neck and the front legs. So I'm just going to very, very, very roughly just kind of bend the wire. This is a very, very messy process. Don't worry about being too perfect, because you can always trim it later. So you can see that the neck kind of bends backwards like that, and then down into the foot. Okay, so kind of like you can just about see there. What I want to do is I always double it up so there's some extra strength. So if I did that, that would be the first part of it. Okay, so that's the first part of the armature. Down there, and then back up to the chest, and then double that up, and that's the beginning of the armature. It won't make much sense to begin with, but will do once I start working with it. So you get some, you can cut it with scissors. It's quite soft, but I generally use some pliers because you can cut it and also shape it. So I'm gonna put that aside for now. Get in the way. Okay. So you can see we've got this first part here, which is just this two-sided bit. Make sure that's bent in half. So you've got a nice strong bend there. You can use your pliers to squidge it back. Okay. And the next thing you want to do is to start twisting it. And it's like one bit. So you have one bit over the other, and then over the other. Don't worry if it's not perfectly neat. The point in this is to add some strength by making it a double-stranded armature rather than single. So it gives it a bit more strength. You can bend it a little bit more. It'll hold up parts like the head, which are generally quite heavy and bulky. In some cases, you might want to actually add extra wire and wrap some more around it, especially if you've got very, very bulky parts like a large head, which will weigh it down. In this case, the head is actually quite small, so I don't think we're going to run into any problems. So twist it like this. The other good reason for having it twisted is it adds some extra surface area. And when you're adding on the body, I did do a video about that. which was wrapping quilt batting around it and needle felting it into shape. When you're doing that, it kind of gives it a little bit more grip, but it doesn't slip and slide around off the armature. So you're just going to want to check, have we got... So you've kind of mostly got to the chest, I would say. Just do a few more twists. Yep. And obviously it doesn't really matter that too much. Remember, if there's too much excessive wire here, you can always cut it off and trim it down. It really doesn't. It really doesn't matter too much if you had it. But always err on the side of adding too much rather than too little, because it's so hard to add anything extra back on. Okay, so we've got that, and now we want to say, okay, so the armature is going to sit here inside that doll when he's done. So the leg is going to look like that. It's going to be so long. So we bend that back again, and you can probably see what I'm doing now. Just do the same thing again with that one front leg. This part might be a little bit trickier because the neck is in the way, but don't worry too much. Again, remember, it doesn't have to be totally perfect. Oops. Unfortunately, that's one of the problems of filming in a confined space. Things hit things. There you go, so that's one leg. And then, again, bend the other leg down. 2 legs. If you just kind of pinch, well, if you've pinched the end like that, so it's not a big loop, it's just a very small, narrow loop. That makes it a lot easier to insert into the head and the feet once you've sculpted them. You don't have to make a huge hole. Okay. It's not always easy getting it to twist very well. This is actually one of the better twists I've ever done, actually. But again, the point is to add strength and to add a rough surface area. And there you go. So that's the front end done. Next up, back end. Bring up the wire. And this is more or less the same. You make exactly the same shape here. It's the back. So imagine it like this. That's the back, and there's the back legs. So it's the same sort of principle. So imagine it comes here. Remember, ignore the tail for now. The tail gets added in later. And then just kind of roughly show what you want. So that's half of it. Back and one leg. And bend that back. And again, we've got that. So again, you've got that double-sided bit. Right. Now in this case, I'm just going to open that out a bit. And this wants to wrap around that. So you think as the creature looking forwards. And here's its back, so just give it a little twist around here. And again for the other side. Okay, so it's just kind of attached there. So now you want to start again, going down the back, start twisting. Don't worry if it's not perfect, if that bit keeps twisting around, we can fix that later. This doesn't have to be perfect seal, because when you add in the quilt batting, it'll start holding. Okay, so all the way down, let's go all the way down the back. Again, check your guide. That's what it's there for, so you don't see proportions don't go out of whack. And twist, twist. You can see that's a nice tight twist there. And then again with the leg. Actually, I think I've overshot there. Oh. Right, with the back legs, I've actually done a stupid thing and overshot. Or undershot, more like. I've not added enough to wrap back. That was a mistake on my behalf, so don't worry about that. That's very, very easy to fix. Just pull the back legs out and get an exact same length of wire. And just as you did before, twist it round. So it's just proof it's not always easy to measure it out, but there are ways around it. So there you go. That's the back leg. We might want to stabilise that later, but it looks about right. And again, that back leg. So ideally, you really ought to have had it going down like that and then back up, but because we didn't, we can just work around it. Again, just around. This could be a little bit tricky because there's not really that much to grab onto, but there you go, it's got it. There we go. So that's most of the body done. Next up, the tail. The tail is generally just a single bit. And again, I mentioned I didn't really draw it on, but I've got a rough idea of what size and shape it's going to be. So it's going to stick out about so much. It's about the length of the body. Okay, so a single piece. And just start wrapping it around the spine. You want to attach it fairly high up, actually, high up the spine, just so it's got some room to stick on. Okay. And then there you go. So take the pliers and curve that little bit down, so it doesn't stick out. Obviously, these aren't children's toys, but you don't want to be poking your buyers in the face. They do move things around, so just take any bits that stick out. And this is why pliers are great, because you can just easily manipulate them like that. And there you go. So last thing, just want to bend that up there, and then bend that up there. And you've more or less got an armature. Right, I'm just going to do one last thing with the tail. You can keep the tail as just a smooth bit of wire, but I have a better way of doing it. So I'm just going to get some regular thinner wire. I think this is just garden wire or something. And the reason for this is because the tail doesn't really need as much strength as the neck or the back or the legs, because it's not weight bearing. Well, it's not usually weight bearing. Depending on your design, it might be. So you might want to actually do a double stranded bit to begin with. In my case, I'm just doing a regular tail. But you do want to add a little bit of surface area to give it a grip, because when you're adding on the quilt batting, which builds up the body, I generally find that with smooth tail wire, it will start slipping around and not stick. So what I generally do in this case, this is not really structural wire, it's just a bit of regular garden wire. Whatever kind of thinner wire you need will do. Okay, and then just wrap that round. In this case, we're not really twining the two wires together, we're just adding a little bit of extra grip. And if you do this, it means that whatever you add onto the armature later will not slip and slide around. So I'm out of space there, so add a little bit extra. So this is just like a little extra consideration, just to make your life easier. perfect. The point is just to get a nice grippable surface area. Again, we're just going to bend that back so it doesn't stab anybody. Of course, remember this is just for art dolls, which are intended to be sold to adults. If I was making something for children, I would honestly never use a wire armature because there's always going to be poking bits. Okay, so we have our armature here. And if we get that into shape, you can just see how it works. Again, it's not absolutely perfect. It might look a little bit. It always does look a bit wonky at this stage, but remember this is just the beginning. So this is what it will look like. If you like, what I generally like to do is stabilise the places like the chest and the front legs, and a little bit around the hip. A little bit of milliput or whatever epoxy putty it is that you prefer to use. Milliput is just my preferred version, and that will keep it from flopping around a little bit more. But that is in general how you put together a wire armature. So thank you very much for watching. Any more ideas? Anything you want me to see? Do let me know, and I'll do my best to show it off for you. Thank you very much then. Bye.